Hello, it's Dan Kenner again, here with episode 3 of the Tirran Tales. Stephen couldn't wait to get home. While he was at school today, one of his classmates said that his dog just had puppies, and he was going to give one to Stephen. The news excited Stephen so much that he was running as fast as he could to tell his parents about it. He burst through the front door, looking immediately for his mom, who was usually in the kitchen preparing a snack for him. Mom, guess what?" Stephen exclaimed. "What happened? Are you okay?" his mother asked, concern in her expression. "Oh, nothing's wrong. One of my friends is going to give me a little puppy. His dog just had babies, and they want to give them away. I can't wait." Nancy, his mother, paused and looked at him thoughtfully. I see. Well, that's very nice of your classmate, but you know you have to ask us if it's okay first, right?" Stephen's eyes widened. "Oops, I forgot. Is it okay?" he asked sheepishly. His mother looked at him worried again. "I don't know, son. Having a dog is a lot of responsibility. Are you sure that you are going to be able to take care of the dog?" Stephen nodded quickly. "Oh, it will be so easy. You just play with them and give them some food, and that's it. I'm old now, so I can take care of it easy." Nancy raised her eyebrow. "Taking care of a dog is a lot more than that. You need to train him to not poop in the house, clean up his messes, keep him clean and groomed, give him a lot of attention, and all sorts of other things." Stephen shrugged. "I can figure it out. It's just a puppy. I have to take him, Mom. I have to," Stephen whined. "I'll have to think about it. Your father and I can talk about it when he gets home later. Don't get your hopes up. Having a dog might not be the best for you until you get a little older." Stephen's heart sunk. He'd been sure that his parents wouldn't care about the puppy and that they'd let him take one, maybe even two. "But Mom..." "Not right now. How about you go do your homework and think about it some more? I need to talk to your father first." Stephen scowled and stomped loudly to his room, shutting the door loudly so his mother knew that he was upset. "I'm not too little for a puppy. I can take care of it," he grumbled to himself. As he sat on the bed, he realized that he didn't have any homework. He also didn't feel like playing with any toys. His mind shifted to the box hidden beneath his bed. It had been a couple days since he had gone and played with Amethyst, so he thought that maybe now would be a good time to get his mind off of the puppy. Jumping off his bed, Stephen pulled the chest out and opened it. Sure enough, the yellow light flowed out and pulled him quickly inside. He still wasn't used to the feeling of falling into Tirran, so he still let out a little scream. As with the other 2 times that he'd come to Tirran, he landed softly on the grass among the quilu trees. "Well, hello there, tree," Stephen said, looking at the tree just beside him. The quilu tree still had the nail scratches on the trunk from last time. He'd clawed it on purpose to leave a mark so that he could keep track of which tree would take him home. For a moment, he stared at the tree, still thinking about how mad he was that his mom and dad might not let him get the puppy after all. Then his mind shifted its attention to the tree. "I think you need a name. Amethyst said you have feelings, and you are the tree that gets me home. So how about I call you Hubert? Do you like it?" Stephen asked the tree. In response to his question, the tree turned a rosy pink on the trunk and branches while the leaves changed to red. Yes then? I don't know what that means." He shrugged and turned to leave. "See you later, Hubert." He walked over to Amethyst's tree, the only other place besides the lake that he knew, and knocked loudly there. No answer. He stood there for a moment and tried again, but there was still no one there. Disappointed, he turned to head back to Hubert so that he could go home, but then paused. "No one said I can't look around, right?" Stephen said out loud. Of course, no one responded because he was alone still. He turned to face the direction of the lake and thought to head that way before he stopped himself. Stephen remembered being high up in the bubble and seeing all the cool things in Tirran far and wide. He didn't have to go to the lake just because he knew about it. He could go anywhere he wanted. So he turned to the right, away from the lake, and started walking on a path through the trees. While he walked, he touched trees here and there, making them change colors along the way. Finally, Stephen could see some wooden buildings up ahead, like a small town, through the colorful trees. He started walking a little faster out of excitement. Stephen didn't remember seeing a town like this before, but then again, he was too distracted by being high up in the air to notice anything other than the mountains and the rest of the forest. Just before he could exit the trees into the town, however, a man came out of the trees up ahead dressed in a black cloak, their hood up over their face. Stephen froze, staring at the figure. The person turned to look at the small town and then kept moving into the forest to his left. Stephen gaped at him. He decided to wait a moment to let him get ahead because he was a bit creepy. "Help me!" a small voice shouted from the direction the person had just gone. Stephen's stomach squeezed at the sound. Someone needed help. A part of him wanted to go to the town, but a stronger part of him wanted to help the person that was calling. He hadn't seen their face, nor did he see anything about them other than the fact that they wore a cloak. "Please, someone help! He's got me!" Stephen moved quickly to the trees where the figure had disappeared, then pushed his way through the brush, leaving the pathway. The area darkened in the thicker trees and plants, even though it was still the middle of the day. "It's pretty dark in here," Stephen whispered to himself. "Maybe I should go back." As he walked, he thought he still heard the little voice calling for help. It was really quiet, and he had to listen really hard to hear it. The sound was coming from the person wearing the cloak in front of him. Stephen sped up a little to try to catch up. The trees thinned out suddenly, and more light came from the sun above. He sighed quietly in relief now that he could see a little more. "Help me!" the little voice called again. Stephen turned and saw the cloaked man walking toward a mountain cliff that had come out of nowhere. Stephen looked up to see that the mountain was very, very tall. The person was headed toward a big dark hole in the mountain wall, and Stephen realized that it was a big cave. Stephen walked a little faster, and just as he got a bit closer to the person, he stepped on a branch which cracked loudly. The person stopped and turned slowly to look at him. Stephen froze, the hairs on his arms and neck standing on end as he realized that the person had heard him coming. "Now, who is that there? Why are you following me? Did you want to get yourself hurt? It's too dark out here for kids. Get home now," the deep voice of a man said. I'm sorry. I thought you needed help. I heard you asking for help, so I just followed." "Well, I don't need any help, so just leave," the man said. "I mean, go home to your mommy and daddy. They probably are worried about you." "Help me," the voice said again. It was high and screechy, much different than the man's voice. "What is that noise? Do you hear that?" Stephen asked, looking around. "Look, boy, go home before you get hurt. If you don't leave, I will make you leave. This is no place for little kids," the man said. His voice was gravelly and low. "Stop him! He's going to take me away forever," the tinny voice said. Stephen had no idea who the voice belonged to, but whoever it was sounded really, really scared. The man, seeing that Stephen was not leaving, turned all the way around to face him. Then he started walking towards Stephen. Stephen's heart thumped loudly in his chest as he saw the cloaked man coming toward him. Stephen still couldn't see his face, which made him even more nervous. Without thinking much about it, Stephen reached down and grabbed a rock. "Stop, or I'll throw this rock at you," Stephen said, trying to sound tough, but his voice was shaking. "I'm not going to hurt you. I just need you to leave. If you won't leave by yourself, I will make you," the man said more loudly. Stephen was about to turn around to run from the grumpy-sounding man when the voice called out for help again. The cloaked man stepped quickly toward him. Fine, let's do this the hard way, the man growled at him. Without thinking, Stephen threw the rock as hard as he could at the man and shouted. His throw wasn't perfect, but it still made the man jump to the side to miss it. As he did, a glass jar flew out of his cloak and shattered as it landed on the ground. A bright green light flashed brightly in the air, blinding Stephen. The man grunted and jumped back away from the light. Blast you, kid! This is your fault. You ruined everything, he yelled. Stephen looked to see that the man had green skin and even darker green hair. His teeth were very white and he had short fangs that poked out over his lips. I am free! The tiny and high voice shouted from in front of Stephen. Then the green light flashed brightly again, making Stephen squint and cover his eyes. The man turned and ran away, grumbling about the lost opportunity. Thank you, kind sir. I am so grateful that you heard my call, the voice said. The green light dimmed and a small fairy appeared in front of him. I am the protector fairy for this town in Tirran. It is my job to keep everyone safe and the town running as usual. That man tried to get me to give him a power, but I wouldn't because he isn't worthy. You, however, are worthy, Stephen. Stephen jumped at her words. How did you know my name? I definitely have not met you before. She smiled at him. I know all of the people in Tirran, elves or not, even visitors. Stephen felt more nervous now, for she somehow knew that he was not from here. As a reward for saving me, I give you a gift. A special power that only you can use. But know this, Stephen, that it is a great responsibility and you must be very careful. He grinned at her words. I am 8 now. I am very responsible. See, my parents just don't understand how responsible I am, but she knows that I can take care of anything, Stephen thought. The little fairy started to glow red when a ball of red light shot from her hands and zipped into Stephen's chest. He gasped at the heat of it and closed his eyes, but then it was gone. When he opened his eyes, the fairy had also disappeared. He felt heat in his hand and held up his palm to see what it was. Right as he lifted it up, a ball of fire appeared in his hand and he yelped. Hot, 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 he exclaimed. But then he realized that, although he could feel the heat a little, it wasn't burning him at all. Whoa, that is really cool. Stephen closed his hand and the fire went away. I've got to show Amethyst, he said, then turned and ran back the way he came. The forest became dark again, and he had a hard time seeing where he was going. He started to get a little scared. Then an idea came to him. All he needed was light. Holding up his hand again, a fireball sprung to life, lighting up the trees around him. Yes, this is so great. I am glad she could see that I am a responsible person. So he walked forward, using the light from his fire to be able to see. Nothing can go wrong for me. Now, I have this cool power, Stephen thought. Stephen tossed the ball of flame upward and caught it. Satisfied that it stayed together, he threw it higher to see if he could catch it. When he did, he felt proud of himself. I'm so good with this power, nothing will go wrong, Stephen thought. He smiled and threw the fireball as high as he could. It soared higher than the treetops and came down quickly. Stephen felt so confident that he'd catch the fireball that he didn't really try too hard. Unfortunately, he missed the fire and it landed on the ground at his feet, causing the flames to explode everywhere on the ground, lighting trees left and right. Ah! Stephen shouted, seeing what he'd done. He tried to stomp out the fire, but it kept moving up the trees around him. The flames spread so quickly that Stephen panicked and ran as fast as he could out of the fire. Help! Someone help! He screamed, running through the trees as quickly as he could. Finally, he came out of the trees and into the small village. He realized that all of the buildings would get burned if the fires didn't get put out. Help! Fire! An elf man, very tall and strong, looked up at Stephen. A curious look on his face. Then his eyes darted above Stephen's head and widened. By the light, fire! He shouted. Suddenly, elves were running out of the buildings, some moving away from the fire in fear. A few others ran toward it, throwing their hands upward. As they did, water sprung out of their palms in strong streams, flying over the treetops and onto the fire. A few ran into the trees, water spraying out of their hands too. In only a few moments, the various elves were able to put out the fire. "How did this happen? Where did the fire start?" an older elf said, emerging from the largest of the buildings. Stephen blushed. I don't, Stephen started to say. Just then, the green glowing fairy flew out of the center of the town and stopped above them all. "Stephen, I did warn you that your new powers would require a lot of responsibility. Perhaps you aren't ready for them." "Wait, no, please. I just didn't realize how much responsibility they'd be. I will be careful, honest. I can do this. I just need more practice," he begged. The small fairy nodded, a slight smile on her face. "You must understand how important it is to be responsible with the things that are given to you. If you aren't careful, or if you don't take on the responsibility, bad things can happen." Stephen nodded. Soon all of the elves returned to their homes and their business. As Stephen turned to walk back toward Amethyst's home, she came out of a store close by. "Stephen, did you hear about the fire? It was so hot, I could feel it from inside the store." Stephen looked at her grimly. "Yeah, I need to be more careful." "Wait, that was you? Whoa, how'd you do it?" Amethyst asked. Stephen shook his head. "I got powers from the guard fairy, and I'm not sure I'm ready for that responsible. I almost hurt a lot of people." Amethyst looked jealous. "Oh man, how did you get a power first? Not fair," Amethyst said, folding her arms. Stephen shrugged. "I'd show you, but I think I need to practice some more." Amethyst nodded, but still looked offended. "Anyway, I have to get home and talk to my parents," Stephen told her. She looked at him curiously, but just said, "Okay." Stephen rushed home, jumping through Hubert and the portal home. The moment he was out of the chest, he went to his mom to talk about the puppy. "I think you are right. Maybe I'm not ready for a puppy. I didn't realize how some gifts mean a lot more responsibility," Stephen said. Nancy smiled. "Are you sure? I still haven't had the chance to talk to your father about it. He might think you are ready." "No, I don't want it. Not now. Maybe when I grow up a little more." Stephen put his hand up and thought about how he was not being careful, how he was trying to be impressive, and he'd almost hurt a lot of people. The fairy had said that he could have another chance and practice to see if he could truly take responsibility for it. Stephen was determined to prove to everyone in Tirran that he could be responsible with his powers. He definitely didn't need the puppy, for he got something else that was much cooler. The end.